Welcome or welcome back to Pewdiepie. I'm Zui and I hope you enjoyed today's video. But before we get right into it, I'm obligated to remind you to click either the like or dislike button, commenting something down below, and of course sharing the video so more people can see and enjoy it. This is very important as it helps with the YouTube algorithm. I want you to know that your help is greatly appreciated. If you have any suggestions or ideas for a story, my Discord link is in my link tree that is down in the description, as well as my Patreon and Ko-fi for any donations you may want to send my way. Every cent counts. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video.
The Ashen Sea was an anomaly on the seven seas. Its waters treacherously dark, and its secrets promising glittering gold. It attracted adventurers and pirates alike. Battles were fought, heroes and villains were made, but most importantly, things were discovered. Strange creatures hiding among the darkened waves of the Ashen Sea. In these waters, three pirate factions had created their foothold. The Sovereign, a powerful group of pirate merchants who traded goods from the Ashen Seas with the outside world. The Reaper's Hearts, who disliked the pirate code of the Ashen Sea and would actively refuse it, oftentimes leading to even more bloody battles than there were already fought. Finally, the Bilge Rats, a ragtag group of the unluckiest and poorest men sailing across the sea. Their motto was, help one another for your own profit. However, their top priority was acquiring the rarest items in the Ashen Sea to get rich quick, and they were the ones actively hunting the unique fauna found here. These three pirate groups were engaged in battle every day. Ships were sinking, men were losing their lives. But among the wreckages, you and your kin were fighting for survival just as much. The Bilge Rats were after you and your brethren. Mermaids is what they called your kind. You and your people had lived for thousands of years in peace inside the Ashen Sea, in an underwater kingdom. The darkness of the water penetrated by the mystical glow of your fishtails. But it had now become your undoing, as the hunters had an easy time picking you off. Death was the preferable alternative, of course, as the few that did make it out alive were sold to the richest bidder in auctions. As despite your sentience and human-like intellect, you were still regarded as a mere animal. Something the aristocracy of the human race needed to tell itself to be in what they considered a moral gray area, and therefore legal to them. And so you were nothing but a beast. However, there was an even darker secret among the mermaid hunters, and that was the removal of tongues. It was difficult to claim a being was a mere animal if they talked after all. You were swinging desperately away from a Bilge Rat brigantine. Brigs were preferred by the Bilge Rats as they were more nimble than a galleon, and had more firepower than a mere sloop. It was perfect for hunting creatures such as yourself. Panicking, you looked behind yourself as you stared at the ship's shadow approaching you. They must have had perfect back winds to be able to catch up with you like that. Here the waters were shallow. Hunters knew what they were doing. Lead the prey to a sandbank. What should you do? A harpoon suddenly zoomed past you, cutting open the fleshy skin of your human half around the hip. You screamed in pain and desperately pressed your hands on the wound. The hunters sure saw the blood rise from the wound. This was it. Wait. That noise. You stopped and looked up at the water's surface. A second ship had suddenly arrived. A galleon of all things. Its cannons were firing. Wooden debris was raining from the surface. Thank the gods, you thought. But ironically, you weren't out of the woodwork just yet. If only one heavy ship piece hit you, you'd be knocked out for sure. And then your wound would finish you off. Scared, you swam through the wreck's pieces. Meanwhile, on the galleon, the Sun and Moon brothers were having the time of their lives. They were young pirates of the Reaper's Horde. Sun, the younger, was out for treasure, while the other, his brother Moon, wanted nothing more than to slice open some bellies. Of course, Sun and Moon weren't their real names. That would be ridiculous. But since the Reaper's Horde were so feared, it was better to have an alias and a mask. This was so the Reapers could still enter ports owned by the other factions and purchase supplies and chat with the locals without being chased out, or worse, hanged for their crimes. Their ship was called the Nidhogg, and despite the band of pirates having only recently entered the Ashen Seas, they already made a name for themselves with their bloodhound-esque manhunts, often hunting a mere sloop for days, even if the reward was just a single chest of gold. Sun was blurting orders, while Moon was firing his scoped musket he had dubbed the Eye of Reach. Lucky for them, whatever these rats had been doing had distracted them well enough to allow for a successful board-side attack. Understandably, the beach rats had noticed the large galleon approach, but they thought they could quickly grab the nimble mermaid and then have a quick getaway. The fight had taken only 10 minutes before the pirates of the galleon swung over to their rival's ship for a hand-to-hand combat. The rats knew that this was their end. And yet they fought until the last man. No prisoners, as per usual. Not that Sun's brother would have taken any. The two captains began directing the survivors of their pirate crew to treat the wounded, to repair the holes in their ship, and most importantly, to check for any valuables. It was there the younger brother noticed a strange shimmer among the debris. "Brother!" he called out as he grinned under his mask. "I found something!" Moon approached, while still gesturing to his men. The pirate grabbed his Eye of Reach and aimed down. "Brother," growled Moon, "I think we're going to be rich." "No, brother," replied Sun. "A creature such as this is special." Moon sighed. "You're kidding me. Think about it. If we nurture this thing, it will join us for sure. The men have a woman to ogle at, and she will be far enough away in the water to not be harmed by them. And, most importantly," Moon lowered his rifle and was about to embrace his brother for the great idea, "we can get all the sunken treasures because she can die for us. And, well, if she is dead, so be it. We can sell her body to the merchants and make a killing." Sun and Moon are at their most trusted men, a portly man running by the alias Fazbear and a muscular big guy with the nickname Monty Gator, due to his alligator shoes that he was incredibly proud of and practically never took off, to fetch the unconscious mermaid. Using a fishing rod and their combined strength, they pulled you in by your tail. A tiny hole in the webbing in your tail wouldn't hurt you in the long run after all. The entire crew watched in awe as you were thrown on board. Your wet, naked body made the men go wild, and it took Fazbear and Monty Gator a great deal of strength to keep their dirty hands off of you. "Halt!" shouted Moon as the men parted to let him and his brother pass. They really were the only authority here. "This treasure is not for your rotten hands, you sea dogs," hissed Moon. "This little mermaid will be our key! Our key to riches beyond your wildest dreams. Just trust me, my battle brothers. She can dive, she can collect. She is smart. I know it. Just look at her. Aye, aye, shouted the men of the crew in unison. The brothers now kneeled before your body as they expected it. Using the elf reach, Moon poked you. You shivered and coughed. She's a live one, growled Moon. Fast Bear, get the doctor. He needs to treat her. This instant. Pirate doctors were a rarity in the treacherous waters of the Ashen Sea. So they had become their own faction. Neutral, of course. They helped anyone who hired them. The only indicator who was employing them at the moment was the color of the uniforms they chose for that job. At your service, said the lanky figure as he peeled himself out of the crowd. His name was Brian, and he was prone to huffing his own medicine. Not really the most trustworthy guy, but as a reaper you took what you could get. Brian threw you carelessly over his shoulder as he walked into the lower decks. There were still a few pirates repairing holds. The somber hammering had a soothing rhythm to it. When Brian reached his cabin, he gently placed you in a spare bed. Most of the injured pirates had been laid down at the upper decks for easy access, but due to you being special cargo, it seemed fitting to have you very close to his remedies. He cleaned your wound, stopped the bleeding, stitched it up a little, and even bandaged up your chest to be a little more decent according to human standard. He admired his work with a toothy grin. Well, little mermaid, he chuckled. You're gonna make us rich, aren't ya? One way or the other. So, why does she not die on land like a fish? Asked a voice that was unfamiliar to you. Oh, well, that's because mermaids are similar to dolphins. Their lungs are exceptionally durable and contain a lot of air pockets. Well, at least more than a mere human, said another. I see. So she breathes air, not water. Precisely. It's a wonder they even survived this long in their underwater cities. I'm sure their kingdom has a few air pockets, or something to stay underwater for longer periods. Not that we know. No human could ever dive that deep without expensive equipment. Equipment we hopefully will be able to afford soon. You twitched unintentionally. What were these people saying? You didn't understand their language, but their voices sounded cold, analytical. Did she just move? Oh, bye. I shall take my leave then. Is that okay, Captain? Aye. Footsteps indicated the departure of someone. Seconds passed until... Hey. Someone poked your shoulder. Immediately you were on high alert and you shrieked as you fell off the soft surface you had been lying on. Oh dear. The man who had poked you was wearing a strange moon-like mask. As you tried to desperately crawl away from him, he just grabbed you by the hip. A seething pain rushed through you as his hand touched your bandaged wound. And without much care, he threw you back on your bed, before climbing on top of you, pinning you down. Was he going to breed with you? Were humans that brutish? You blushed hard as you fought against your restraint. Little bitch, hissed the man. Do you have any idea who you are up against? You shouted for help in the mermaid tongue. Oh, you can't understand me, isn't it? Well, I don't need a translator to know what these screams mean, little mermaid. After he didn't do anything for a while, however, you relaxed. Somewhat. You were heaving. Afraid, you looked up into the dark shadow of the man. For a moment, the two of you just stared at each other. He then let go with one hand and tapped his chest. "Moon," he said. You blinked. "Moon. I am Moon. Can you say moon?" Slowly you tilted your head to the side. Moon. Was he trying to tell you his name? "Yes, correct. I am Moon." The man grinned from under his mask. With quivering lips, you said your own. "So is that what you're called, huh?" You blinked, not understanding what was clearly a question. Sighing, the man just tapped your chest while saying your name, before moving his hand back up to his own and saying his name. You nodded. "Okay, so now I know your name, and you know mine." He got off of you, finally allowing you a look around your environment. You were in a dingy small room. The smell of herbs was around you, and a table with colored vials and plants stood next to you. The man crossed his arms above you. Intimidated, you looked at him. He sighed. "Son isn't gonna like this," he growled. Surely his brother would think teaching you his language would be too time-consuming and unpirate-like, leading to him wanting to sell you before you could be of any use to them. As the man was thinking to himself, you looked down at yourself. White cloth with red stains was spread across your skin. It didn't hurt. You were still alive. Wait, was it thanks to this man you were still alive? Well, in mermaid culture, healing a merfolk that was practically lost and on the brink of death was regarded as the greatest sign of love, or at least friendship. Did this man love you? You never met him before. But your instincts had already decided for you. Slowly you reached for the man's hand. He shook as you grabbed it tightly. Moon blushed. Not that you could see it from under his mask. It had been 6 months since the last time he had felt the touch of a woman. His gloved thumb gently rubbed over the back of your hand. Not thinking straight, he pulled his mask over his head, revealing his handsome face. A scar ran deep across it. The slash was so prominent it had blinded his left eye. It blankly stared at you, white as a star. And his face was flushed. "I think I'll keep our language differences secret for now." These humans wore masks. Seeing their faces must mean something important, you thought. Was this the start of a mating ritual? You blushed hard. It was going a little too fast, even for mermaid standards. But maybe a kiss was warranted at the least. After all, he saved you, didn't he? With surprising strength, you yanked his arm, forcing him down to your level. He didn't protest, luckily. As seconds turned to a minute, he finally came closer, gently pressing his lips onto yours. You noticed how your skin was surprisingly cool, despite your blush. Ah, it certainly was something new, wasn't it? Thought the pirate. He came here for an adventure, and he found it. Today's video had been suggested by Discord user MCFU. I'm sorry I can't pronounce your name as it actually is, because that YouTube would demonetize me. I hope you enjoyed your submission, and keep up the good work.